Good evening, and welcome to Intellectual Publics. We're coming to you from the Graduate Center at CUNY in New York. I'm Ken Wissaker, and I direct the program along with Stephanie Gayet. This is our 10th season, and I have to say tonight we have an incredibly exciting and I think memorable conversation. We're joined by Dr. Monica Miller, Professor of Africana Studies at Barnard, and Dr. Sarah Lewis, the John L. Loeb Associate Professor of the Humanities and of African and African American Studies at Harvard, for a discussion of Professor Miller's book, Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity, the prize-winning book that is the inspiration for this spring's Metropolitan Museum's Costume Institute exhibition, Superfine, Tailoring Black Style, which will open in May, and you know it will be great. Those of you who are regular attendees of Intellectual Publics will recognize that we usually focus on brand new books, with authors in conversation about their ideas, but also the process of writing. I think about Christina Sharp talking with poet John Keane after In the Wake first came out, or Fred Moten talking with Arthur Jafa about Black and Blur. Tonight, we get to think instead about long-term impact, the way a brilliant book, and a first book at that, can be ahead of its time, or better, produce the time the subject has deserved all along. Slaves to Fashion came out in 2009. It's been read widely, and its influence and luminousness will be on full display this spring. When we were preparing for the conversation last week, I thought about how many artists, like think about Jack Whitten or Lorraine O'Grady, wait for their moment, and how the art then tells its own story. Of course, that can be true for books too. This has been a frightening day and week and month politically. So one might think, like, maybe this will be like watching Project Runway reruns. Fashion might provide a respite, though even there. But that's not the case. The politics that run through Black fashion, visibility, and style are deep, and I know that our discussion tonight will have them at the fore. Monica Miller is Chair and Professor of Africana Studies at Barnard College, Columbia University. She's the author of the book, Slaves to Fashion, winner of the William Sanders Scarborough Prize for an outstanding study of Black American literature or culture from the Modern Language Association. A frequent commentator in the media and arts worlds, she writes and teaches about Black literature, art and performance, fashion cultures, and contemporary Black European culture and politics. She is currently at work, very at work, on the Met Costume Institute's Spring 2025 exhibition, Superfine, Tailoring Black Style, based on Slaves to Fashion, as well as a book project, Blackness Swedish Style, Race and the Rhizomatics of Being, which considers cultural production by the emerging Black community in Sweden. Sarah Lewis is the founder of Vision and Justice, John L. Loeb Associate Professor of the Humanities and Associate Professor of African and African American Studies at Harvard University. She is the author of The Unseen Truth, When Race Changed Sight in America, from Harvard University Press, named this very day as a finalist for the distinguished Anisfield Wolf Book Award. She's also the author of the bestseller The Rise, Creativity, The Gift of Failure, and the Search for Mastery, from Simon & Schuster, and the forthcoming book, Vision and Justice, from One World Random House. Lewis is the editor of the award-winning volumes Vision and Justice by Aperture Magazine, and the anthology on the work of Carrie Mae Weems from MIT Press. She is the organizer of the landmark Vision and Justice convening at Harvard, and co-editor of the Vision and Justice book series, launched in partnership with Aperture. Her awards and recognition include an honorary degree from Pratt Institute, the Infinity Award, the Andrew Carnegie Fellowship, a Cullman Fellowship, Freedom Scholar Award from Asala, the Arthur Danto ASA Prize from the American Philosophical Association, and the Photography Network Book Prize. Her writing has been published in The New Yorker, The New York Times, Art Forum, and the New York Review of Books, and her work has been the subject of profiles from the Boston Globe to the New York Times. Sarah and Monica will talk for about an hour, maybe a little less, and then take questions. The chat is completely open. Feel free to say hi, but please put your questions into the Q&A so we can keep track of them there. Sarah, Monica?
Sarah, I think you're on mute.
Thank you so much
Sure.
for that prompt, and thank you. You think I know after these years, right? And thank you so much, Ken Wissaker, for that glorious just tribute to your work. Monica, Dr. Miller, Monica, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Oh, me too. I'm very happy to be here with you too, Sarah.
Yeah, it's really an honor. I want to thank all those who allowed for this event to take place. Though it's remote over Zoom, we know all the hands and labor that has gone into it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I think it's also rare to be able to have time to really dive into our process. I'm thinking through also what Fred Moten once said about writing. He said, "I write so that I can talk to my friends." And in this case, I feel as though reading your scholarship and writing my own has allowed me to make new friends and colleagues. And I'm so really honored to be able to have one in you. We're here to tribute, I think, just a landmark achievement in Slaves to Fashion. And we're going to really dive into all that prompted it, all that's come from it, and where you've gone since. But I first want to ask you, just on the emotive level, how did you feel about the response to your scholarship in Slaves to Fashion when you learned that there would be a show at the Metropolitan Museum based upon it?
Oh, I mean, before I answer that, though, I do want to just say thank you to you and thank you to Ken and Intellectual Publics as well. I mean, this is a real privilege. Also, as you were just saying, I mean, it gave me an opportunity to be in conversation with you, which is, you know, as a fan, it was, you know, is a real honor also. So I just wanted to say that. And your question is just so true. I mean, where I'm sitting right now in my office is exactly where I was when I got kind of a cold call. Yeah, where this was not anticipated at all. I mean, I was here in my office and got a call and was sort of from Andrew Bolton, who was the curator in charge of the Cosmo Institute, and he said, you know, Monica, we are, you know, he sent an email and then he called, right? And I was just like, really? You know, I was just sort of like, is this a joke? You know, no, it was fantastic. I mean, it was just sort of, it was a shock, and it was a shock for a very long time. Partly because, as you know, and as Ken mentioned, you know, this book is older. It's not new. I've been working on another book for many, many years since then, even though I've continued to, you know, always write about and think about, you know, fashion and dress cultures, Black style, all of that stuff. But still, I was working on a book that was slightly different, not necessarily related. And yeah, it was phenomenal, actually. I mean, and part of it has to do with something else that Ken mentioned, which is, you know, when I wrote this book, I mean, this book, I'm trained as a literary scholar, right? And I feel like as part of that training, I also became a cultural historian, right? But I never anticipated that a cultural history of Black fashion and dress would end up as an exhibition, right? That, or that a version of that history would end up as an exhibition that privileges, you know, fashion objects, right? Garments, right? That was never a part of my thinking. So yeah, it was really phenomenal, and also like just sort of like an incredible creative challenge.
And the creative opportunity, I imagine, too.
Yes.
And, you know, as a scholar, the signaling power that it offered, I think, was landmark, right? Because the announcement is about your extraordinary scholarship it also, I think, is an occasion for many institutions to think through who really has created the foundations
Mhm.
for our understanding of expressive style, of aesthetics. So there is a reformation, right, of our foundations happening today. There was so much excitement, I think, throughout many fields. It was a detonation of a moment. We're still reeling from it. It's extraordinary. But those of us who knew the work weren't
Right.
surprised, right? So in your book, I should say, and you don't know this, and those in the audience, but Slaves to Fashion transformed my own trajectory. I mean, where we meet is at the intersection of our work, which coheres around the idea of representational justice, I would say. Yeah, and we're going to get into that. But when I saw your book come out, I thought, okay, great. She's doing this work. I'm going to think about transformation from object to subjecthood through another vehicle. And so I feel as if we've been working alongside each other on a similar idea.
I feel that way too. I absolutely feel that way. I mean, I felt like, vision and justice, right? I mean, I think so much about visuality, right? And also visuality, perspective, seeing, being seen, not being seen, right? Hypervisibility, invisibility, right? I mean, all of those things in relationship to race, and then the way in which fashion and dress makes those things sometimes really obvious and readable, right? And then at other times, right, can be a vehicle of concealment or disguise, right? So yeah, I mean, there's so many echoes between the work that we do and the ways that we think, I think, right? I mean, as cultural historians, but also as people who are very concerned, right, about what's seen and what's unseen, right? And what hasn't been seen historically, right? And what, hopefully, if we're doing our work, what can be seen, right, in the moment, but then also that seeing in the moment sheds perspective on the past.
Yes, exactly. Taking sight as an object of study is another aspect of the relationship in our work. Thinking through what's cohered a regime of vision, and what are the tactics that people have used within the African diaspora to be seen. You can't do this without thinking about expressive culture and style.
No.
You also can't do this without a temporal jump. You have to embed, the historical framework to understand our contemporary moment, which is also how we're aligned in the work.
Right.
I mean, there are many places to begin. I thought we might begin there, and I want to do this also because I think there's a model in this. When people think about fashion and style, I think it's easy to just periodize it and focus entirely on the present. But one of the landmark interventions of your work as a model for scholarship, as much as it's field defining, is that you insist on that temporal jump from the start, in your introduction, right? And I don't know if we want to maybe think about images now or later, but this jump to get us to think about, one half of Outcast on 3000, with the 18th century painting on the other hand, is how you introduce the reader to the idea of the Black dandy.
Right.
I thought it was just genius, this temporal jump. Can you describe what made you think of that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess, in some ways it's really a selfish move, right? In that I was trying to, for myself, figure out how to signal from the very beginning, right, of the book, right? In some ways, what my thought process had been the whole time, right? Because one of the ways that the book begins, and I've said this many times before, but it's worth repeating, is that or where I started in terms of the very idea of the book is that I was in a class as a graduate student, a class being taught by Cornel West that was a kind of like liturgical reading of the Souls of Black Folk, right? We read a chapter a week and really just kind of like we were doing a deep dive. And I was searching for searching for an essay topic, right, at the end of the semester, doing some research, and just really I came across this footnote about Du Bois as a dandy, and how much he was furious about this. And I said, I mean, at that time, you know, my understanding of Du Bois as a dandy would have been complimentary, right? I was like, oh, he looked good all the time, right? You know, everything I knew about him meant that he was impeccable, right? But I was like, why would this be a problem, right? So what that meant, because I was thinking forward into the future, right? I was thinking, oh, you know, being a Black dandy, right, means that you've got some kind of swagger, you've got some style, you're thinking about your appearance, you are actually sort of like, one form of dandyism, right, is to bring that swagger into the world, right, and to back it up if you can, right? But that moment forced me to look into the past, right, and to understand that, you know, the thing that Du Bois was reacting to, right, was blackface minstrelsy, right? He was reacting to the Black dandy in that show, right? He was reacting to, you know, by that time, by the time of this footnote, almost a century, right, in which educated Black men, striving individuals, right, were ridiculed, right, by that particular figure in the show. And he was furious because it was everything that he was not, right? Even though, you know, that figure is a figure who, quote unquote, enjoys clothes, right? As much as Du Bois actually did, right? So there was that piece too. So, you know, when thinking about it was that move, right? I was thinking in the future, but I really had to go into the past, right? And I wanted to signal from that juxtaposition at the beginning of the book that what was going to happen, right, was the sort of opening up, right, of the space between those two images, right, and that the narrative journey, right, was related, right, to being fashioned, right, and self-fashioning, and not that would just be, you know, that's the happy historical story or historical arc, but that's happening constantly, right? Being fashioned, fashioning the self, being fashioned, fashioning the self, like being fashioned, fashioning the self. That's all happening, right? In every moment, right? And for me, you know, dandyism was a way to kind of chart that movement. But I wanted people to see that like from the beginning, and sort of also just be curious enough to go on the ride.
One of the moments in, you know, rereading your book that made me think of the stakes and the gravitas of the project was in recognizing how much labor was required to disentangle the idea of Black style from Black dandyism, and really to educate your reader about the term Black dandy.
Yes.
And I saw you doing so, you know, years after your chapter in Bad Modernisms, also on Duke University Press, right? Revising the idea. So can you, for those in the audience who, you know, are coming still likely to the idea, because the exhibition allows for this rediscovery, can you describe why going back in time allowed for a reclamation of the term Black?
Right.
You know,
yeah. That's I mean, I love talking about that. Going back in time, and it was sort of, it has everything to do also with when I talk about the work that I do, I talk about Black fashion and dress cultures, right? And then so I'm interested not only in fashion, style, and clothing, right? Those are all kind of different, right? And and sometimes they also require sort of different modes of different perspectives in order to see, right? So one of the things that I wanted to do in the book, right, was to think about, I mean, to be really simple about it, right? To think about clothing, right? And then and clothing in relationship to dandyism, style in relationship to dandyism, and then fashion in relationship to dandyism. Right? So going back in time, right, really allowed me to really focus on the kind of clothing piece, right? So that and to think about initially, sort of like in you know, in the slave trade, right? I mean, if we're Black centered, we're not really necessarily at fashion, right? But we're definitely at clothing, right? And so that if we look at clothing during that time, we can see what the enslaved might have been doing, right, with the clothing that they were issued. We might be able to see, you know, recordings of, you know, if we look at ads for absconding slaves, right? I mean, we can see them, right, taking volumes of clothing with them, right? Which is, there's something there, right? We can see clothing, right? We can also see dress, right, in terms of how people are being represented,
Yes.
right? Right. So, and then also, you know, as we get a little bit further into history, either representing themselves, either textually or, right, visually. Right. So that's where, you know, kind of dress comes in. And then, you know, a little bit later, right, even around moments of emancipation, then we start to get fashion, right? And we get sort of like contests related to fashion and fashioning, right? So it was going back in time in order to sort of like think about the movement between those terms, right? And then how they all kind of start to operate, how they operate independently and how they operate together in terms of thinking about Black representation and Black self-representation, right? And then, you know, signification, right? Because that's really where I was trying to get to.
Ooh, there's so many tentacles that I want to follow based on that rich answer. One, I think I see a number of students in the audience here. Just, I think it's important in part because your scholarship is going out in the public in a way that's really instructive to tease out this transformation from clothing to fashion, right? So does it cohere around, I imagine it coheres around the development of the photography studio,
Oh yeah.
agency, right? And emancipation. And by agency, I mean self-possession and therefore the transformation of clothing into expressive culture.
Yes.
Are there other aspects of that time period that allow for that transit from clothing to fashion?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, and you mentioned, keep mentioning expressive culture. I think that there's photography. I think there's also dance.
Yes.
Right? There's
Yes.
dance and music. So even as we have, you know, even though the, you know, the blackface minstrel show is the most popular form of entertainment in the 19th century, like we also can't forget, right, the origins of Black dance, Black social dance, dances that were, you know, dances that you know, included sort of like survivals from Africa. Like there was a lot of dance, right? And so I would add that to photography, right? And I would add dance because it was a way in which, for me, you know, you know, in general, the clothing moved, right? So there's a way that you can elevate dress in terms of how you move it, right? So I feel like those are the kinds of things that I see happening, or that I was seeing happening in the, you know, during the late 18th and early 19th century, right? And so, which is, you know, around the time of the development of photography. So I think dance and photography, you know, movement and actually sort of a self-representational stillness, were part of the, I think, or, you know, I think equal parts of this conversation.
Yeah. We're definitely in a political era where, you know, the excision of facts, of aspects of our history are so obviously, you know, happening that it's, when you mention dance, I'm just reminded, and minstrelsy, I'm reminded of how overly sanitized the historical record is, such that I think it's shocking for some of my own students to learn how widespread this phenomenon of, say, minstrelsy was. So it's important to surface that as a key piece of this answer and reason for the transformation. Yeah. 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 You also, you describe, dandyism as a kind of signaling and a signification. And I was thinking about your work with my colleague Ken Blue Gates Jr., Skip
Mhm.
Gates, and just wonder about how signifying also came into the project, or if it did at all.
Oh yeah, no. It's incredibly important. And I mean, it is in some ways one of the, I'm going to say, one of the theoretical threads, right? Really important. And it's more than a thread. It's a kind of, I'm trying to come up with a different metaphor, but I'm not going to make it. But anyway, sort of like, it's more of, I mean, there's just like a significant grounding, right? And actually when I was thinking about the conversation that we were going to have and thinking about signification, like the way that I was like, oh, how did I define that in the book? And the way that I actually talked about it in the book was, and I wrote it down earlier today, was like signification for me was, in this book, meant repetition, revision, reversal, transformation. It was those 4 words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that arc
Mm-hmm.
is really important, right, to what I was just talking about in terms of the ways in which I feel, the ways in which I saw, right, Black folks taking what they were given, right, or the ways in which they were being fashioned or allowed to fashion, and then repeating it with a difference, right, revising that image, right, reversing sometimes its quote unquote meaning, or like social, like the context in which it's happening, right, and transforming it into something else. So for me, it's there's like, it's a foundational element of how I think how Black people work with, right, fashion and dress cultures, right. I mean, dandyism is a particular way. Dandyism is in some ways, sometimes, in some instances and in some historical moments, the easiest way to see that, right, because it's it's high culture, or it's fancy dress, right, which makes people more angry than non-fancy dress, depending on who's looking, right. So it's really, really important part of it. I also feel like, signification for me is in some ways the ways in which Black people outrun, right, stereotype, right, the ways in which people outrun capture, right. So for me, it's just really kind of foundational, right, in terms of thinking about, and also I think some people think that there's a relationship between Black dandyism and dandyism in general that's closer to mimicry. But if you're thinking in terms of signification, you would never say that. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Reversals, it's so key to, I think, what also connects our work. And I have to say, I'm thinking here differently of my own just family history connected to the topic. I was given by my mother that in 1870 census that list my ancestors as being married with the occupations of my great grandmothers. She was a seamstress and her husband was a tailor. And when I looked at that, I thought, yes, tactic for freedom.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, I can say this about the exhibition, that one of the things I'm really excited, I'm excited for 2 things. One is exactly that recognition in so many families, right, of ancestors who were seamstresses, tailors, home sewers, menders, all of the things that have to do with clothing and self-presentation, right? I mean, Black people couldn't buy ready-made clothing, right, until the later part of the 19th century. So there was years, hundreds of years, right, of tailoring and sewing tradition, right, that people had. Like that knowledge is deep, right? It's deep. And then the other thing that is really important, right, is this sort of recognition of some of these tactics, right, that I like, some of the tactics of dandyism, right, some of the tactics of Black dandyism, some of the strategies, the way that it's a tool, right, the way that it becomes a kind of like language and grammar sometimes. I'm hoping people are able to see that within the exhibition and sort of recognize like, oh, that tactic that so-and-so might have been using in the 1840s is actually a tactic that I recognize, either that I've used or that somebody has used. And that is like kind of true for Black people, right? But just true for people, right? The ways in which clothing, dress, style, signification, right? In relationship to clothing as expressive, right? Is part of that conversation.
There are a number of things I think that will also happen because of the exhibition. I think that many institutions are reckoning with questions of audience. Who is the rightful audience of a museum in the United States? And as you state that wish, which I know will come true, that those who will go to the Met will see their own ancestry anew, right?
Yes.
You're also in that moment envisioning that institution and many others recognizing who their rightful audience is and always has been, really. So it's a vehicle for a reckoning of another kind as well, but I also, think that it's as much of a reckoning as it is an overdue, belated moment of recognition for, as I say, the scholarship we've all celebrated in your work, that on the part of so many, that is to say, your work was ahead of its time, as Ken mentioned in the introduction, right? We all would like to say revise things when a work goes out and time has passed, but I think in your case, you're rightfully stating that people will be able to look to the tactics of their own lives through the vantage point of this historical lens on Black dandyism. And there's a prescience in your work and being able to know that is what is going to happen. The work stands up to time, and I want to salute that. Thank you for that. I do have to ask, though, I'm putting the exhibition together. I know you can't give us a preview or talk about much, but I do wonder if just in that active labor, and we're both sitting in our offices, this is my kind of home office from COVID still, if you have thought of other topics, themes, tactics, strategies that you might like to write about now, or you would have written about, at the time.
No. I mean, it's like, one of the great things about what you're saying is absolutely true, is that, very few people get a chance to go at a project again, right? And so this has been a really fascinating, it's been a fascinating second look, right? At my book from a really different vantage point for me, right? And I've had a lot of thoughts about, about what stands up and maybe what doesn't stand up, or or about those things, but then also like what kinds of things would, if I were to rewrite the actual book, right? Again, what would be different, right? So I have thought a lot about that. Also just sort of like agonized about it. So it's like, to be honest, like those are two things happening at one time.
It's brilliant. Please don't.
But I have some thoughts about that, and some of which have come up, right, as a result of the actual not just planning for the exhibition, but doing it, right? So one of the things that I think I would have included in the book, but that has probably no place in the exhibition, is like, I was really two things, and they're related a little bit. I mean, I was thinking so much about, I have been thinking more about adornment, right?
Yes.
And adornment and its relationship to dandyism. But so its relationship, it's like similarity and difference, right?
Mhm.
And I wonder what this could have looked like if I had spoken more about adornment, right? And then related to that, it would have been, I would have wanted to have had a little bit more of a kind of explicit conversation about aesthetics, right? And
Yeah.
you know, that goes well beyond, you know, quote unquote beauty standards, right? That's just much more about like aesthetics. And I guess I've been really thinking about that so much in terms of Rizvana Bradley's work,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I think I would really like, I have been thinking, you know, rethinking my work in relationship to that work, right? And then how things, a rewriting of the book would be really different, right? If I'd been able to read that ahead of time, right? And think about it more. So I think adornment, I think some, you know, kind of like higher level theory about aesthetics, right? And Western aesthetics. And, you know, again, I was saying like, you know, I do believe that Black dandyism is not, you know, a repetition of, you know, white European dandyism. I think it's different. It has its own rules and relations and relationship to the body in particular, right? But I would have liked to have like teased that out a little bit more, like in terms of aesthetics. And I think that would have been good. The other thing I was thinking about, and this is where some of our work comes together, is thinking about respectability politics,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
I feel like the moment when I wrote the book, right, was one in which it was probably more fashionable to be critical of respectability politics in a particular way, right? I've
Mhm.
thought a lot more about that. Maybe it's just kind of getting old and being around like older Black people, you know, more since then.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like, and not respectability politics, but respectability itself, right? I don't know. I feel a little bit differently about it now, right? And I feel like, you know, what looks like respectability politics,
Uh-huh.
right? And what looks like the fulfillment of some others, some outside idea, right?
Mm.
About how one should look, behave, comport,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. I think I think I'm just less critical, right? Like when I think about Frederick Douglass,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I think about the kind of radicality of his conservative dress, right?
Yeah.
And the radicality,
Mhm.
you know, rather than saying that he was trying to quote unquote, you know, assimilate enough to be heard, I actually don't think that's what it was. Right. So so yeah, I would want to think, I want to think more about respectability.
We could talk about this all night. I think it's so good. No, exactly. So, well, a couple of things. One, I want to go back in sequence. Adornment,
Mhm.
is that coming up because of the contemporary use of adornment that brings to mind the Black dandy focus, or because of aspects in the archive of just images that you've seen that you could have engaged?
Right. I think it's both, right? And I think I've had the opportunity, as I was saying before, the opportunity of kind of translating the book
Yeah.
from text and visual culture into object has
Hmm.
meant paying more attention to, I mean, this is just like really practical, to accessories,
Yeah.
right? So there's a way that the way that a single accessory,
Yeah.
right,
Hmm.
can change can change everything,
Oh, yeah.
right? In terms of a person's being in the world, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I've thought a lot more about that. It doesn't have to be a full ensemble, right?
Yeah. I didn't have this on the start of the thing, and then I thought I'd put it on my desk. And the reason I take it off at times is because of the signifying aspect of it. It feels like a so
Yes. Oh, I understand.
where I want, but I've been late for a function because I forgot I needed to go back. It can change.
It can
Adornment
change.
change
It
the
can change.
entire.
Yeah, it can change. So I think, and also just thinking a lot about, you know, one of the parts, there's some parts of my book, historical moments that I didn't cover, right? Like hip hop. I mean, I've written about that since then, right? But hip hop is the, you know, there's the full ensemble, like you think of Dapper Dan, right? But there's also like a real attention to adornment, right? And I think thinking about that more, and again, thinking about the ways that like a single object can do a lot of work, or, you know, the the ways it's also about, you know, what people have available, right? So so thinking also about like what's useful, right? What's useful, available, impactful. I hate that word, impactful, right? So I think that's where the adornment comes out of it. Just thinking a lot about accessories and their prominence, right? In the sort of later part of the 20th century.
The paradox of the accessory and the idea of adornment is that it's not about the marginal at all. It's actually very much about the power dynamic here, to be
Yes.
the adornment of another, to
Mhm.
an object, to another subject to it, and then to be able to transform that into your own self-possession. That's at the heart of the reversal of the book, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
the what's adorning one speaks to that so much. And
I also think I mean, I've also, and I know this part of, I mean, this is publicly available information, but one of the texts that I've used to really think with expressive culture, and to sort of organize my thinking for the exhibition, is Zora Neale Hurston's 1934 essay, you know, Characteristics of Negro Expression. And there she talks about the will to adorn. And she talks about putting beauty upon beauty upon beauty, right? And the way that, you know, there can never be too much. And also just the way that, you know, the way that folks want to, right? There's just sort of like this desire, right, for distinction, right? And that sometimes that distinction is the, you know, the way that we think about it in terms of the maybe the formal definition of the word, right? I mean, it's a like distinction that has this sort of dignified elegance to it. And sometimes the distinction is just showing out, right? It's just
yeah.
being seen, right? It's about like showing up, right? So I think I've been thinking also a lot about Hurston, which, and that has to do also with the fact that, you know, I when I finished the book, I had just, you know, I was a couple of years into my work here at Barnard, but, you know, Hurston's a Barnard alum, and we think a lot about her here. So yeah, I hadn't had enough time with Hurston, right?
Yeah.
Before I finished my book, but now I've been thinking with her kind of ever since then.
You know, before coming on with you, it's just,
Mhm.
you know, created the opportunity for always making time, right, to really read everything, and was struck by Hurston's lineage in your work.
Yeah.
Right. And you're right about her response to Brown v. Board of Education, which we might or might not get into, but
Right.
I thought of just how being at an institution makes you mindful, as opposed to, say, being a standalone writer who's
Mhm.
not necessarily working within institutional community. You're
Right.
mindful of who's made space for you and
Absolutely.
went through these halls with you, before you. And I there's it's just profound that here you are working, and Hurston was there training, right? And
Yeah.
working. So to salute her and to come back to her, I wondered if there was more you might even mine, or if you are mining, because you're deep in the archives with her there.
Yeah. I mean, not only her, but like, you know, I also think about, you know, the other Black Barnard women writers, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
Ntozake Shange,
Mhm.
I had the privilege of working with her, and my colleagues here for a long time. And, you know, she also has this amazing, she has this amazing part of one of her, it's a later kind of choreo poem play. And there's this incredible exchange between a bunch of I don't know if they're kids, maybe they're kids, but where they're talking about why it is they dress up, right? And she just keeps saying, well, we dress up because, we're honoring each other, we're dressing up for this, we're dressing up, right? And it was just like, so there every now and then there's something that I hit upon that is just like really, yeah, I don't know, it all comes together, right? It's sort of like, Hurston was here and Tazake was here, June Jordan was here, Tulani Davis was here, sort of like, I mean, it just, there's a lot of, yeah, there are a lot of ancestors in the room, right? When my colleagues and I from Africana Studies here are doing our work. So it's a real privilege. That's a real privilege to have their voices, right? Yeah.
As I was using the phrase expressive culture, I was really genuflecting to that lineage. So I wanted us to get to Hurston, at some point. And it relates, I think, to why I imagine it relates to why aesthetics has come up for you as a topic that you like to mind. I think it really does bear emphasis in a talk like this, conversation like this. The work has only just begun as it relates to Black aesthetics, and why, in large part, because of so much creative, intellectual, organizing energy has had to go into the reformation of disciplines and fields to account for the presence of, first of all, of these artists, of these styles, developments. And now that so much of that work has been done, there can be attention paid to what one, I think, would almost like mischaracterize as just the formal dimensions, right? of the art forms. And the stage modeling I've just laid out, just what was just pronounced to me when I was editing the volume on Carrie Mae Weems's work for press. And in the conversation with her, and I've written about this publicly, it's not, and so it's on the record. She was, when I first went to her to edit it, she was not convinced there was enough written about the aesthetics of her practice to warrant an anthology. And I was stunned. And
that's stunning.
And I have to say, she wasn't wrong. It took work to create the anthology, but the results showed who was paying attention to the aesthetics and who was not. So you have this kind of elliptical sort of registration of the scholarship. So soon in the 1990s, when her work detonates with From Here I Saw What Happened and I Cried, Fusco, Bell Hooks, Dawood Bey, thinking about her work, Deborah Willis. And then there's a spate of work that largely focuses on the political aspect of her presence in institutions alongside other Black women. And it then takes another 15 years or so for there to be kind of a modicum of attention paid again to the aesthetics for practice. And she laments that and says, look, I want there to be more attention paid to what it is that I'm up to the craft, right? So it's time, and that's the work that we're doing, right? And Rizvana's work is fantastic, and it's a really important contribution here. And then the politics of respectability, but just the radicality, right, of that is, I think, laid on Douglas so squarely. But so much of that can't be seen unless you understand what he's working against.
Exactly.
Unless you see those Zealy daguerreotypes, right? For example, it's you really see the state of affairs as they were. So I look forward to how you're going to deploy these different themes into different projects. Do you think about your own research going out into the world differently after the engagement with the exhibition process?
That's a great question. And I've been asked a little bit lately, what does this mean? In some ways I try to think about it like within the right now, right, within the parameters that I know. Like, so what does it mean to teach on this scale?
Right.
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 And I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. We'll see. But it's like, I mean, in terms of thinking about future projects or, ideas that I've had that now I can think about or that I want to think about differently, I do think there is something about the immediacy, right, of teaching in this way that I think is really powerful. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be something that I curate. I mean, one of the experiences that I have had right before this, right, was actually teaching with the Harlem Renaissance exhibition that Denise Morel curated that was also at the Met. I taught 2 classes in relationship to that exhibition, and it was phenomenal.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, it is a really different kind of teaching with things that are in the gallery or presenting an exhibition, right, as a syllabus, right?
Yeah.
Those things are related. They're not exactly the same, but I found that, I mean, that is absolutely something that I will continue to do in the future, right? I mean, in terms of being able to work with art objects of any kind, right? Paintings, prints, sculpture, film, right? I mean, and because I'm an interdisciplinary thinker, right? And I feel like Black culture needs interdisciplinary thought, right? So
Mhm.
doing that, I mean, that's always, I think, how I will proceed, right? I have been working in that way, but now I feel like I see the power of it
Mhm.
I mean, not only for my own thinking, but for my students. So that's something that I think will not stop,
Yeah.
right? And I'm super curious. I can't say that I've had the, even 2 minutes of leisure time to think about what happens after this, truly. But yeah, I don't know, but I'm really excited about it because I do think that it's like my head was cracked open
Mhm.
in a way that yeah, that I'm really excited about, right? That, I mean, I see differently, right?
Mhm.
I see differently now,
Mhm.
which is a real gift.
Mhm.
It's not always often that, your perspective shifts in relationship to either a topic that dealt with a decade ago, right? And that allows you actually to see something forward, right? It's an incredible, gift.
Beautiful. You, your clarity of vision prior is really marvelous, and you're an extraordinary writer. So I'm looking forward to seeing how seeing differently will translate on the page and be in the round with new shows. And
But
you,
you've done the opposite. You've not the opposite, but a very similar thing. So I mean, tell me about how that process has been for you.
yeah, I was trying not to make this about me, but there you
Oh,
go.
but I want to know. We
So,
want to know.
yeah, well, it's what allows me to anticipate and understand, I think, where you are when you answer the question that way, because I did begin my trajectory in the opposite way. I began curating at the Tate Modern and then at the Museum of Modern Art,
Mm-hmm.
photography, painting and sculpture, and then photography, and then entered the academy and didn't expect to.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, I think I mentioned to you, I had an offer to curate at the Metropolitan Museum and had the
Yep.
contract and sat on my desk. And I was so excited about that prospect, but was equally excited to come to Harvard and to be a professor. Uh, it- when you have as your primary classroom the public and
Yeah.
the museum, you do center the stakes, I think, first and foremost, the legibility of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think take with you the hidden, the stories of what's in the collection that you want to ensure are surfaced.
Yeah.
Like I would spend nights at MoMA, and one of my colleagues I think is on the call here, who's extraordinary. I would spend nights in that cold storage in the Department of Photography, and in order just to master the collection.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the gifts of curating is to develop an internal repertoire to
Right.
have, and Frederick Douglass talked about this in that speech, Pictures in Progress in 1861. We all are this mental picture gallery, he said.
Yes.
So I was developing that and not knowing I was, I went from, Harvard, Oxford. I was doing my doctoral work, started at NYU and then went to Yale, but I was, so curating happened early for me. I was 24 or so.
Yeah.
And in terms of race and representation, I mean, it's a completely different landscape in New York at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I was so inspired by the work that Thomas Golden was doing, for example. But many of the conversations we're having now, many of the opportunities weren't there then. So the main tactic and tool I had was the mastery of the collection, mining the archive, and the confidence I gained from the work of scholars like Deborah Willis, for example, and Skip Gates, who inspired us both, to ensure I knew that those stories, those narratives that were at the times, being left out mattered.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So going to Harvard, focusing on scholarship, starting the Vision and Justice book series, for example, to correct those narratives or to expand, for example, the canon, was really born of the work in museums and how productive that reckoning process was for me internally.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see. I mean, what you said there about mastering the archive has been really mastering the archive in the museum, right, is really resonates with me because I mean, I think any Black studies person who goes into a museum, right, has to figure out what's there, right, and then what isn't, right, and then the figuring out how to negotiate between those things and have, as just as you said, have the public as your audience, right? It's not easy, right? And it's not easy, and I think it takes a long time. I mean, one of the things I've felt, and it's, I mean, we talked a little bit about the timing of this book and the exhibition. I have to say that I'm actually really happy that I've been asked to do this now, right? I don't know if I would have been able to do it, right, when the book came out. But I've had 15 years of thinking, right, about these topics and, how they show up in places. And I've also had 15 years of teaching Black literature and culture, right? I mean, that's not related entirely to this topic, right? So I have a context and, my own kind of archive around it. I know my archive, right? Right. I know my archive. So that's, and it's been really fun to actually pull pieces of the archive out, right, or add to them. Like, so for example, when we talked about Hurston, like, I mean, to like add Hurston to the archive that I already had for the book, but then also pull things out, of my other reading, like that Ntozake Shange piece, right, that might be helpful and useful in this moment, right, in this newer moment with the book. So I'm really grateful actually for the belatedness, right? But what you say about being able to build up that repertoire, right, is really important. Right. And it takes time.
It takes time. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that the modeling and signaling power that your show, I think, will have, I think for those who are asking themselves, how do I, and it is a word I don't like either, but have impact, right, will be answered by duration, by time, expertise and rigor that it doesn't come in 3 months, it comes through extended viewing, metabolizing, really asking these questions, and that's a journey, and so we both have probably models of those who have done it and modeled that for us.
Exactly.
and we'll do that for others. You're doing that for us all.
And also peers. Like, I mean, this is why this conversation is so interesting, because I also feel that you have modeled a version, right? A version of the things that I'm trying to do for me, right? I mean, you know, it's not about necessarily about, you know, it's about mentoring.
That's right.
It's about mentoring, and it's about seeing folks do their work. I mean, even I've met, you know, through this process, I've also met a number of other younger artists much younger than I am, who are at a different stage in their career, but I've learned so much from them. You know,
Yes.
somebody like Tyler Mitchell, for example, right?
Yes.
I've learned so much from seeing how he approaches the work that he's doing, which is related to mine, but in a different, you know, genre, you know, register. But you know, I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like, so that has been really that's also been really important and unexpectedly wonderful.
Yes. Now he's fantastic. He's also on our board for the Vision and Justice book series that I co-edit with Deborah Willis and Lee Rayford, and
Right.
he
Or Deb and Lee also too, right? You know, also people that I've always, you know, I've learned so much from.
Yeah. Well, before we open to questions, I do want to ask if you've thought through or see the work of artists differently today as a result of your interest in fashion, Tyler being one, but I wonder if there are other artists who you're thinking of anew, maybe engaging with. We've spoken about a few, but yeah, Berkeley Hendricks, Nick Cave. Because fashion is just a capacious term, right?
Right.
But it doesn't even apply to some work, but it is a portal through which to see the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you just to your mentoring, I've always thought with artists, right? And I have been seeing things differently. In particular, I feel like Nick Cave, right, is really important for me, right? I mean, his what was it, for Othermore show, right? Last year, the year before, right, at the Guggenheim. Oh, I can show, actually I can show. Ken is telling me to show the pics, I will. Was really an important show for me in terms of thinking about, let me just see, I can change this, hold on. Wait. Sorry. Let's see, play from the start. So let's just go to Nick Cave if I can get to him. Okay, so here we are, Nick Cave. So can you see that?
I can.
Okay, good. So thinking about Nick Cave a lot, and thinking about, I mean, this is again where adornment comes in, right? The will to adorn, thinking about, you know, thinking about the relationship of dance, right? These suits are danced, right? The music that they make, right? So so I've really been thinking about, like, you know, and also, I mean, I feel like Nick Cave in particular, you know, has other elements of his practice that are much more about like fashion and dress, right? I mean, so he's really thinking, you know, in some of the same ways that I've been thinking, and I've really been excited to have his work at the back of my head, right? When I'm doing some of the more specifically like fashion-based work that I do. Right. Another image from Nick is this piece, which has nothing seemingly to do, right, with fashion, but for me, there's something about the organicism and the sort of like roots and branches here that this is a sort of image that I want to keep in mind when I'm just thinking about sort of like Black culture, right? I want to think roots and branches, right? I want to think about that being embodied, right? And yeah, I mean, this work is something that, you know, I'm really really thinking about, right? You know, the subtitle of the book that I'm working on now is the rhizomatics of Black being, and it's this image that really makes me think kind of like rhizome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
rhizome.
In a vivid, literal way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then these are Tyler, right?
Yeah.
So this is Tyler Mitchell.
Mhm.
So his fashion photography, but then also fashion photography in relationship, right, to his photographic practice. You know, his new show at the Gagosian right now, right? So he is really, I love the way that he is nimble,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that he works in these different modes, right? But they're completely related, right? And he has a sort of set of values, right? And a kind of an ideology, right? That he puts forward in both the fashion photography and in the sort of, you know, art photography that always has to do, right, with connection,
Mhm.
right? I think so many of Tyler's images are about people connected to each other, right? Or, you know, people connected to being grounded, right? Sometimes literally in nature and the landscape. Right?
Mhm.
So I've been so interested in that, and the ways in which those things are, ways in which they also um, are communicated through fashion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
On this, on this point of connectedness and relatedness, I know the question that I had is a question that's coming up in the Q&A,
Mhm.
prompted by the images, but this relationship between, well, relationship, gender, queerness, and then E. Patrick Johnson's way of
Mhm.
redefining this in your text is something I think people are interested in hearing more about, and does come up in so many of the works, right, that
Mhm.
are on both of our minds we think about. Um, while I understand your engagement with it, I think the audience might like to hear a bit more about how you think through the relationship between Black dandyism and gender.
Oh, yeah. So let's go back here, right? Um, I feel like what's for me, why the dandy was an important figure, right? To think with, and to think with kind of historically, and thematically, had to do, right, with the way that dandies more generally, right,
Mhm.
are really they're liminal figures. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that, if dandies are, if we think about go back to the Oxford English Dictionary, if dandies are, people who study above all else, right, to dress fashionably, right, that study, right, has to do, I think, when one studies above all else, right, as a man,
Yeah.
right, one ends up, right, being considered, or in the 18th century, right, one ends up, right, in the realm of women, right. So a dandy is automatically sort of, by paying too much attention to the self, right, becomes feminized, right. So there's a way in which there's a kind of, the dandy is already a figure, right, that is troubling gender, right? Troubling sexuality as well, right? Because somebody who, again, is paying too much attention, right, to adornment, right, to luxury, to distinction, right, to sometimes dandies are seen as hypersexual, right, because there's a way in which that study, right, can be really intense, right, and then sometimes dandies are really considered to be, queer, right, odd, different, right, both in terms of sort of, attitude or sexuality. When that figure becomes racialized, right, then the dandy becomes this figure that is really that's really pushing boundaries, right, of identity, questioning, right? Is this, you know, questioning gender, questioning sexuality, questioning, right, sort of racial designation, right? So for me, the figure is really, you know, really has that liminality. It has that sort of troublemaking aspect, but the troublemaking aspect is actually really productive, right? And then in that, I think it tries to shake up what you think you know, what you think you can see,
Yeah.
right? And actually allow you, right, to think differently, and I think more freely, right? Tyler is in some ways, you know, imaging some of that in this image, right? I mean, the figure on the left is wearing this kind of I don't know, it's a kind of chainmail bralette, right? And then also the jewelry, right? The jewelry and the other chains in the image, right, are giving, you know, sort of adornment, right? There's a way in which yeah, the way the high and the low here is also really fascinating, right? In terms of the jewelry and the sportswear, right? Yeah. So I feel like, you know, Tyler's helping us here in terms of thinking about that that provocation.
Yeah. I love having, you know, the chance to read the image. And I think one of the questions in the audience here, you know, relates to, there's a question about, and we got it at the beginning, but maybe they're asking for more here, about the similarity between dandyism and New York Block fashion, specifically streetwear. So I wonder if you can speak to that. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you know, dandyism, I think, happens on a real, at least in my mind, other people may disagree, right? Happens on a real spectrum, right? So there's everything from, you know, high style, high fashion, you know, buttoned up, bespoke tailoring, that kind of thing, to street style, right? And I feel that there's also a difference between, like, I often make, I mean, when we started talking, right, this distinction between fashion, dress, and style, right? I love style, right? I love style. I think that's where that's what I'm looking for, right? Often, because style is, I mean, I think style happens outside of, you know, it happens outside of, in some ways, class, right? And it's related to class, right? But it's not bound, right, by consumption or luxury or any of those things. Like style is something in some ways that's organic, and I think comes up, right? Comes up from and can be seen on, right, the streets, right? So I have to say that one of the things in terms of thinking about process of the book, you know, I moved here you know, I wrote my dissertation and then I moved to New York to take the job that I have now, you know, 25 years ago. And it was actually being in New York, right? Being like, seeing things around me on the street that really influenced the way that I rewrote, right, my dissertation into the book, right, that I have now. And it was like going to not only street style, but also, you know, going to galleries and seeing people's work and seeing in particular photography, that I was just like, oh, there's something happening here, right? That was really vibing with the kinds of things that I was saying, or that I was trying to argue for, and that I could see, right, across time. So New York is very important, right, to this, to my book, right, also, but I think to this larger kind of story in the world.
Yeah. I know Ken is asking us to take, just so that we could be shown on the screen, to not have the sharp one, although I love Tyler's image being,
Sure.
but that's our request from our host. It's important to remind folks, or to tell folks who don't know, that this was the product of a dissertation. Right?
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah. And what advice did you receive that you didn't take, that allowed for the book to cohere?
Oh, that I didn't take.
I think you told me something about the advice you received to write articles versus.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, yes. So yes, the advice I did not take, which I am so grateful that I didn't take, although it was a huge risk at the time, was when I was finishing up this book, and I had an incredible year at the Schomburg, right? I was a Schomburg fellow, which again, I mean, there are a number of moments when the book was transformed, either by being here in New York, or actually some of the things that I learned and was able to find when I was there. During that time, I mean, there was a lot of pressure, right? Heading towards tenure to write more articles, right, and spend less time on the book. But I was really into what I was writing, and I thought, I was just like, I'm not really done, right? And I didn't feel like I was done, so I wanted to finish.
Right.
And I made the decision to finish the book, right, in a way that meant that I had, when my tenure file went in, there weren't as many articles, right? I'm really grateful for that now. It worked out, but it was a risk, right? It was a risk. And but I just felt that I did feel that there were so many things that I left out of the book that it didn't feel right to either leave those things out and then try to come up with something, because these articles were supposed to not be related to the book either, right? So I was just sort of like, none of this was making sense to me, right? Yeah, so I didn't do it. But I'm grateful now, because I do feel like, I didn't know then, right, that I would need the basis, this book, right, for this exhibition, right? Yeah, so I'm grateful that I spent a little bit of extra time.
Well, it's such a testament to, I think, what's requisite for all of us, which is a belief,
Yeah.
in the work. And so we're
Right.
here to celebrate what's come of that. It's powerful. I think the final thing I just like to ask you, it's such a beautiful phrase, deep in your book, you're thinking about the idea of dandyism as you call it, a freedom dream.
Mm.
And I wonder if you might elaborate on what that means and what that looks like today.
Yeah, I was thinking, that was me thinking with Robin Kelly, right?
Yeah.
And and another phrase that is part of that is from the artist who's on the cover of the book, Ike Ude, who uses this phrase, future perfect, right?
Right.
And he thinks about dandyism and style as a way to reach, right, the future perfect, which is, a completed act, right? Well, I'm going to mess it up grammatically, but basically it's about this sort of freedom dream. It's about the it's about a future, right? And I mean, I think in its best forms, right? I do think that dandyism, that a performance, right, of a performance of self, right, an expressive culture, right, using those particular tools, right. I see people all the time, right, and you see them, you recognize them when they are fully in their bodies, right, fully expressing themselves, right, in a combination of usually, dress, movement, attitude, right? I mean, there's like, they're reaching in some ways that free space, right? That doesn't have necessarily that's not a place, like it's free of surveillance, right? It might have been free of audience sometimes, right? But nevertheless, right, it's the creation of that space. And yeah, I mean, you know it when you see it, or you know it when you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
And when you're trying to make it happen for yourself.
Yeah, you know it when you see it, I think in part because your whole body shifts as a result. You begin to embody it too. It's kinetic, it's electric.
Yes.
I was coming to you after teaching with a show that Cheryl Finley and Deborah Willis put on for the Cooper Gallery, which is extraordinary, and with the framework of freedom, at the heart of it. And every work embody this idea of what it means to reach for that future perfect, what it means to embody and live that. And as you know, I thought coming to you after the 6 hours of teaching back to back, I would be zonked, and I realized, no, I actually am revived with more energy. And this has continued that same feeling, because this is the gift of your work. You're giving us a framework to think through what these tactics of not survival, right, but embodied freedom, and honoring all those who have lived it out in the process. So I am just so honored to be able to talk with you about this work. It feels like just the beginning, though, of the conversation. I want to get out more coffee and keep. But I know we'll have other time to do so, because what will happen in May will be the start of a full and true celebration of you and your scholarship.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you both so much. This was just really wonderful, and gave me so much to think about, and I think everybody who was in the audience a lot to think about, and just the kind of way that one work can resonate in all these different directions at once and through all the periods. So it's like Frederick Douglass at one moment, and Du Bois at another, and street style at another. And I think we're all excited to see the show when it shows, and that future perfect idea, and getting to seeing how people embody that, coming to see it. So
thank you.
thank you both so much for taking time to do this. I
Thank you,
know a
Sarah.
busy time, so I really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for being here. We'll be back in a month with a different political thing. Brian Masumi will be on talking about his new book, which is asking why all our theories of fascism come from the 30s, based in psychology or liberal democracy, when that's not really how we think about how social action happens now. And he'll be in conversation with the anthropologist Katie Stewart of Ordinary Affects fame. So I think that will also be really great. And so keep an eye to Blue Sky and Instagram and Facebook, and we will get you more information about that. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Sarah. And everybody have a really lovely evening.
I know. Thank you
Good
so
night.
much.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Good night. I'll hopefully see you soon. Yeah.
Good night, Sarah.